If I told you that something as sweet and seemingly harmless as chocolate could be silently raising your risk of a stroke overnight, would you believe me? Most people think the real dangers come from smoking, high blood pressure, or stress. But very few ever suspect that their after-dinner milk chocolate bar, that elegant truffle on a special occasion, or even a warm cup of hot chocolate before bed could be putting their brain at risk. That's exactly where the hidden danger lies. Many chocolates contain a mix of sugar, saturated fats, and even artificial ingredients that over time can harden your arteries, thicken your blood, and strain your heart and brain, all without you realizing it. I clearly remember the case of Mrs. Linda, 70 years old. She told me, "Doctor, all I did was treat myself to a sweet before bed." But that small habit, repeated night after night, was silently eroding her health. The result? A mild stroke that could have been prevented. And here's the shocking truth. Her story is not unique. Every day, thousands of seniors live with this silent risk without knowing it. That's why today you'll discover the 7 types of chocolate that are most dangerous for brain health after 60. Some of them you probably have in your home right now, and number 7 may surprise you so much that it could completely change your relationship with chocolate. So stay with me until the very end, because the information you're about to hear could literally save lives. For many people, milk chocolate is a symbol of comfort. It melts smoothly in your mouth, brings back childhood memories, and is often seen as a little reward after dinner. But behind that sweetness lies a combination that can become highly dangerous for anyone over 60: excess sugar and milk fat. When you eat milk chocolate, the sugar causes rapid spikes in blood glucose. At the same time, the saturated fat increases LDL cholesterol, the so-called bad cholesterol, which sticks to the walls of your arteries. Together, this creates the perfect scenario for hardened vessels, rising blood pressure, and a greater risk of blockages that can lead to stroke. Research from the American Heart Association shows that seniors who follow diets high in added sugars and saturated fats face up to a 23% higher risk of stroke compared to those who limit these nutrients. What looks like a simple square of chocolate can in reality set off a chain of silent damage inside the body. One striking example is Robert, a 60-year-old retired teacher. Every night he would sit in his armchair with a glass of milk and a few squares of his favorite milk chocolate. It seemed like a harmless habit, but over the years his blood pressure crept higher. His doctor warned him about prediabetes, and one morning he woke up with weakness on his left side. Robert had suffered a mild stroke. He was shocked. He always thought the danger came from fried foods or cigarettes, never from a piece of candy. Fortunately, his recovery went well, but the episode completely changed the way he looked at food. So what's the alternative? If you love chocolate, switch to a small piece of dark chocolate with at least 70% cocoa. It's naturally lower in sugar and higher in flavonoids, antioxidants that support blood vessel health. But remember, even dark chocolate should be consumed in moderation. A portion of about 30 grams is enough to satisfy your craving without harming your arteries. Chocolate can still bring you joy, but it should always be enjoyed with awareness. After 60, every food choice directly impacts the health of your heart and brain. White chocolate looks elegant, creamy, almost luxurious. It's often offered on special occasions like fancy truffles or delicate bonbon. But here's the truth that surprises many people. White chocolate isn't really chocolate at all. Unlike milk chocolate or dark chocolate, it contains no cocoa solids. And it's in those cocoa solids where the natural flavonoids and antioxidants are found, the very compounds that help protect blood vessels. What you get in white chocolate is essentially cocoa butter, sugar, and milk fat. This combination, while tasty, is dangerous because it contributes to higher triglyceride levels in the blood. Elevated triglycerides make the blood thicker, increase the chance of clot formation, and with that, the risk of an ischemic stroke. A study published in the journal Stroke showed that high triglyceride levels are directly linked to a greater incidence of blood clots in older adults. One real example is Margaret, a 60-year-old widow who often bought white chocolate truffles as a little treat during her grocery trips. She didn't smoke, she stayed fairly active, and she thought her risk was low. But her annual checkups revealed sky-high triglyceride levels. Not long after, she began experiencing dizzy spells that were diagnosed as mini-strokes. It was a frightening wake-up call. So what's the alternative? If you crave something creamy and sweet, there are far safer options. One delicious choice is a bowl of plain Greek yogurt with fresh berries and a sprinkle of unsweetened cocoa powder. It delivers that sense of indulgence, but with protein, antioxidants, and fiber, without the overload of sugar and saturated fats. And if you still want chocolate, always choose small portions of dark chocolate, which provides protective compounds that white chocolate simply doesn't have. White chocolate may look delicate and harmless, but in reality, it hides silent risks for your heart and brain, especially after the age of 60.
Caramel-filled or nougat-packed chocolates, like the candy bars you can find in any convenience store, may seem harmless. Sweet, chewy, and comforting, they give that quick boost of pleasure. But behind that flavor lies one of the most dangerous combinations for your circulation. The problem comes from the mix of corn syrup, refined sugar, and hydrogenated fats. Together, they create a perfect storm inside the body. The corn syrup sends blood sugar soaring, while trans fats damage the lining of blood vessels and trigger inflammation. Over time, this weakens the arteries and pushes the body toward insulin resistance, opening the door to type 2 diabetes, which in turn doubles the risk of stroke. Think about a 60-year-old retired bus driver who kept a few of these bars in his glove compartment. He said they were just for quick energy on long drives, nothing more than a harmless habit. But as the years passed, his waistline grew, the fatigue set in, and eventually he was diagnosed with diabetes. One cold winter morning, he collapsed with slurred speech and weakness in his arm. It was a stroke, the result of blood vessels that had been narrowing silently for years. Stories like his are not rare. They're the natural consequence of small, daily choices that seem harmless in the moment, but add up over time. So what's the alternative? If you need a quick snack, go for a handful of unsalted nuts with a few raisins or apple slices. This combination gives steady energy, fiber to keep blood sugar stable, and healthy fats that protect the heart. And if you're still craving chocolate, a single square of dark chocolate is a far better option than a whole bar filled with caramel or nougat. These candy bars may feel like a reward, but after 60, they often become a silent trap for your brain and heart. Cream-filled chocolates, like rich truffles or soft-centered bonbons, carry an image of luxury and indulgence. They're common gifts on special occasions and melt in your mouth with irresistible sweetness. But behind that creamy texture lies a serious problem: a mix of heavy cream, condensed milk, and butter, ingredients loaded with saturated fat. When eaten frequently, these chocolates make the blood thicker, raise blood pressure, and accelerate the buildup of plaques inside the arteries. And when those plaques rupture, they can block blood flow to the brain, triggering a stroke. Research from Harvard University has shown that diets high in saturated fats increase the risk of cardiovascular events, including strokes, by up to 21% in older adults. Think about a grandmother who loved receiving boxes of truffles from her grandchildren. For her, it was a gesture of love and a way to celebrate life. But over time came the frequent headaches, the steadily rising blood pressure, and finally, the diagnosis that her arteries had hardened. What seemed like nothing more than a sweet memory was in reality carrying a heavy price for her health. The good news is that there are safer and equally enjoyable alternatives. If you crave something creamy and sweet, try frozen banana blended with a spoonful of natural peanut butter. The texture is smooth, the flavor indulgent, but it comes with fiber and healthy fats that protect your heart. And if you still want chocolate, choose a small portion of dark chocolate instead of cream-filled candies. These chocolates may look elegant, but too often they hide a heavy cost: the health of your arteries and your brain. Chocolate-covered cookies and candies may seem harmless, even fun. Think of the popular snacks like wafer bars, cookies dipped in chocolate, or mini versions sold in colorful packages. They're often seen as something light, a little treat to go with coffee or share on a movie night. But in reality, they can become one of the biggest threats to vascular health after the age of 60. The danger comes from a powerful combination of refined flour, hydrogenated oils, and excess sugar. Refined flour is quickly broken down into glucose, causing spikes in blood sugar. Hydrogenated oils, used to extend shelf life and add crunch, are sources of trans fats, which inflame and stiffen blood vessels. And the sugar overload contributes to belly fat and increases the risk of metabolic syndrome. According to the National Institutes of Health, NIH, metabolic syndrome, defined by abdominal obesity, high blood pressure, and insulin resistance, doubles the risk of cardiovascular disease and stroke in older adults. What makes these snacks especially dangerous is that they attack the body on multiple fronts at once. High sugar damages the inner lining of arteries, trans fats reduce vessel flexibility, and belly fat releases inflammatory chemicals that further strain the heart and brain. Over time, the blood becomes thicker, less fluid, and far more likely to form clots that can block blood flow to the brain. Many seniors believe that because these treats are many or eaten in small amounts, they can't do much harm. But frequent consumption, even in modest portions, leads to dangerous cumulative effects. It's the kind of habit that feels harmless in the moment, but quietly chips away at health over the years. Picture someone who enjoys a few chocolate-covered cookies with their afternoon coffee, thinking it's just a small detail in their routine. Over time, cholesterol creeps up, the waistline expands, and fatigue becomes constant. And then, one day, without warning, a clot forms and cuts off circulation to the brain. The good news is there are safer and equally satisfying alternatives. Instead of processed chocolate-covered cookies or candies, try a handful of almonds or walnuts with a small square of dark chocolate. You'll still get crunch, sweetness, and flavor, but with healthy fats and antioxidants that support blood vessels. And another great option is dipping fresh strawberries in a thin layer of melted dark chocolate. It's a dessert that delights while actually nourishing your body.
The message is clear. Chocolate-covered cookies may look light and fun, but for those over 60, they're often a silent invitation to serious health problems. Replacing small daily habits can make the difference between an overworked heart and a brain that stays protected. Few things feel as comforting as a warm cup of hot chocolate before bed, especially on a cold night. For many, it's almost a ritual. It warms you, calms you, and brings a sense of coziness. But for those over 60, this habit can quietly carry serious risks during the night. The problem lies in instant hot chocolate mixes. They're loaded with sugar, powdered milk, and fats that, when consumed at night, trigger a silent effect on the body. The sugar sends blood glucose soaring, and during sleep, when circulation naturally slows down, that excess sugar makes the blood thicker and stickier, creating the perfect conditions for clots to form. Research from the American Stroke Association shows that strokes occurring at night or in the early morning hours are very common in older adults, often triggered by exactly this kind of metabolic stress. Take, for example, a 70-year-old man who ended his evenings with a mug of hot chocolate, believing it helped him relax. Over time, his checkup showed rising cholesterol and higher blood pressure. Then one winter morning, he didn't wake up as usual. He had suffered a stroke during the night. Thankfully, he survived, but it became clear that this seemingly harmless bedtime habit had been contributing to his risk. This doesn't mean you have to give up the comfort of a warm drink before bed. The solution lies in making better choices. A far safer option is warming up a glass of unsweetened almond milk with a spoonful of pure cocoa powder and just a touch of honey or stevia for sweetness. This way you still enjoy the soothing chocolate flavor, but with natural antioxidants and without the overload of sugar and fat. Instant hot chocolate may feel like a gentle treat before bed, but in reality, it can turn the night into a time of hidden risk for your brain. Choosing more natural alternatives ensures that your rest is truly restorative and protective. On hot summer days, few things feel as satisfying as a creamy ice cream bar covered in a thick layer of chocolate. It's refreshing, sweet, and gives an immediate sense of reward. But for those over 60, this kind of dessert can be far more dangerous than it seems. The risk lies in a triple combination:
the saturated fat from the ice cream, the excess sugar from the chocolate coating, and the extremely cold temperature. Saturated fat raises LDL cholesterol, sugar spikes blood glucose, and at the same time the cold temperature causes blood vessels to temporarily constrict. The result is thicker, heavier blood moving through narrowed vessels, the perfect setup for clot formation or vascular spasms that can trigger a stroke. Researchers at the Cleveland Clinic have reported that cold, high-fat desserts can cause vascular changes within minutes, especially in older adults who already have underlying risk factors. Think of a grandmother who loved rewarding herself with a chocolate-covered ice cream bar after gardening or playing with her grandchildren. For her, it was just a way to cool off and enjoy the day. But over the months, she began experiencing sudden headaches and episodes of blurred vision. Later tests revealed narrowing blood vessels in her brain, and one evening, she suffered a mild stroke. It's frightening to realize that something so often associated with fun and pleasure can carry such serious risks. But the good news is that there are refreshing, safer, and equally delicious alternatives. On warm days, try freezing banana slices or grapes and dipping them lightly in melted dark chocolate. Another option is blending frozen berries with plain yogurt, creating a creamy, cold dessert full of antioxidants that strengthen rather than harm vascular health. Chocolate-covered ice cream may look like a harmless treat, but after 60, it's important to look beyond the immediate taste. Choosing lighter, more natural alternatives can turn a moment of pleasure into an ally for both heart and brain health. We've reached the end of our journey uncovering the 7 types of chocolate that can silently increase the risk of stroke after the age of 60. From milk chocolate loaded with sugar to white chocolate stripped of protective antioxidants, from caramel or cream-filled candies to chocolate-covered cookies, instant hot chocolate before bed, and even chocolate-covered ice cream. They all have one thing in common. They look like harmless pleasures, but they hide real traps for the heart and brain. But the most important message here isn't about fear. It's about awareness. The problem isn't one single piece of chocolate, but the repetition, the daily habit, and the choices we make without realizing it. The good news is that there are safer, equally enjoyable alternatives. Dark chocolate, when eaten in small portions, can actually be an ally, providing flavonoids that protect your blood vessels. Fresh fruit, plain yogurt, nuts, and simple homemade desserts can bring the same joy without putting your health at risk. After 60, every decision matters. It's not about giving up flavor, it's about learning to choose better. With small changes, you protect not only your heart and brain, but also your independence and quality of life. And for those of you who want to go even deeper into this topic, we've prepared an exclusive support material in ebook format with extra information, practical strategies, and everyday tips. It's available for a symbolic value in the first link right below this video.
Now I want to hear from you. Had you ever imagined that chocolate could hide so many risks? Have you experienced a situation where an innocent habit ended up harming your health? Share your story in the comments. Your experience might help someone else. And don't forget, subscribe to Longevity to receive weekly content that can transform the way you care for your health after 60. Taking care of your body is taking care of your life, and every conscious choice you make today opens the door to a stronger, healthier tomorrow. See you in the next video.